So let's do our drive around. Here we've got campsite number 21. We've got John and Abby and their two lovely children. Over here, 20, we've got Joe and Kendra. Over here we've got Jess and Ben. So now we're going to roll up here on Jinger and Hannah. Jed and Katie are right here. Okay, then we come up here to join Austin. And then we've got Jim and Shelly's bus right here. Do that, and yeah, we'll be pushing a lot more content.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. It's Friday, December 15th, 2023. Well, what better way to end a Friday, end a week with a little bit of the Duggar propaganda machine. They are coming back and trying to post again on the regular, but don't forget all the details we've learned about the family from Jill Duggar Dillard's book. Because Jim Bob seemingly has a bunch of his kids pushing out content through Joy, Jessa, James, Jason, John, Abby, and Jed, Katie, whoever, all of them. They're all pushing out content. They're promising to push out content. And that doesn't change the fact that Jim Bob likely controls all of it. So if you're wondering why we're not talking as much about the Duggars and their content, it's because Jim Bob is the one pushing this out. But I did want to bring up that a recent video that was put out by Miss Joanna Duggar Forsyth is being promoted on Jim Bob and Michelle's webpage. Joanna Forsyth is doing weekly vlogs and has been doing weekly vlogs for a while. She went out on a beach vacation with her siblings. She recently posted a fall camping event with her siblings. And I just looked at the Duggars website, and her recent video of the camping, the family camping event was published onto their website. So it appears that even Joanna's content now is going to be promoted through Jim Bob and Michelle. So when you're consuming their content, just remember that this is propaganda to promote Jim Bob, to promote the family. And it certainly is to promote that they're like this happy family, and it's all sort of a deflection to get away from everything that's come out from Jinger and from Jill. Interesting to note that Jinger recently posted a video with Jeremy on her website or on her YouTube channel, and she recently said that she watched Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets.
I think that's more so why, and also because I knew that this was not going to be necessarily a Christian documentary.
Right.
That was probably one of my bigger concerns about it, would just be because I didn't know if they would have a redeeming factor for what actually took place. Those teachings of Bill Gothard were awful, and they were so deceptive because they were mixed, and there would be elements of truth from scripture, and then it would just take a twist where it was very damaging. And so with something like this in a documentary, I was afraid that maybe things wouldn't be handled as I'd want them to be. And so that's really why I didn't go on.
Now, she didn't talk about anything in the video, in this series on Amazon about her family. All of her discussion with Jeremy had to do with Gothard. She didn't discuss Jill being in this series. She didn't really discuss her family, like Deanna, Amy, the Holtz, any of that. But she instead focused on what she liked and disliked about the series.
Okay, so that's one thing the docu-series did really well, was exposed Gothard and the program and the cult and the way he operated.
The rise of Bill Gothard and how he got to the place he was, and it showed you like, wow, how would people fall for this? Like, because now all these years later, like anybody who hears these teachings are like, oh, that's insane. How would you get wrapped up in it? But once you go back to the start and how Bill Gothard's teachings kind of evolved into this, what was IBLP, and what is today. It's wild. Like it was quite the journey for all these families. Yeah. And I think they followed that really well, talking about how initially it sounds good. You get in with your family, you have this community, your kids are guarded and sheltered from the world. They're going to turn out perfect. God has this awesome plan for your family to be a light to the nations, to have as many kids as possible, to be able to infiltrate a lot of different areas of government. That was something they talked about, which I was like, well, I don't think that Bill Gothard taught that.
Her belief was that she just didn't want to be involved in the series because it wasn't Christian. And she didn't think it was honoring to God. She also felt like the last episode wasn't accurate because Gothard wasn't necessarily a part of that whole Joshua generation, nor does she think that Christians getting involved in politics is wrong. She praised the survivors of Gothard for sharing their stories, for being vulnerable, and said that she understood that the risks that they took to do it. Overall, she said that she enjoyed the documentary or docuseries, but at the end, she felt like there was nothing to tie it together, no way of providing hope, no way of helping people reach God. Her motivation with her book was to help people leave the cult and find God through disentangling. And she felt like some of the people that have left and are survivors may not have God anymore, and that seemed to break her heart. So the fact that she even spoke out about the series, I thought was good. It's been several months since it's been out, but I was impressed with that. Jessa recently put out a video about her birth, or her new baby, number 5, and talked about family planning and how many kids she wants. It's the same for every video with Jessa. So I'm not really supporting or promoting any of the Duggar births because this is a birthing cult, and and babies are simply a number for the Duggars. They aren't the best with caring for their children. And anytime I see Michelle Duggar holding a baby, I think about the fact that Alice was given a stick to whack her baby by Michelle at a baby shower. So what I wanted to talk about with you in this video, though, is that while all this propaganda is going on, what is not being discussed is that the Duggars lost custody of Tyler, or they gave up custody of Tyler, their nephew, that they sort of showed to the world on their show Counting On. And I actually broke the story several months ago that Tyler had moved out of the Duggar family's house, and he was now living with his grandparents, who happened to be his biological mother's mom and dad. And this was supposed to be a seamless transfer. It was supposed to be that the Duggars waived their rights to Tyler. They weren't going to stand in the way of this. They weren't going to prevent the judge from making this decision to let him go live with his grandparents. And even though that request by his grandparents was made in court months and months and months ago, they petitioned the court September. So 3 months ago, they petitioned the court for the substitution of guardians. 3 months ago, the Duggars said, we waive our consent. You can have him. 3 months ago, we learned that Tyler had been with them since June. And yet, it is now December 5th or December 15th, and the Jim, Bob, and Michelle are listed as his guardians. So it sounds like the grandparents have now hired the Duggar favorite attorney, Travis Story, to help them obtain guardianship. Because in the interim between the waiver of consent and this, Jim Bob filled out a document basically providing information about Tyler's estate. He had previously had like $8,000, and then his guardian said that he only had $200 left. And Jim Bob filed an annual report in October 25th of 2023, and he basically said, yeah, he has a couple $100, but he has a car. So it's like Tyler bought a car with the money that he had in the bank. I don't know. That's what it says. But it sounds like they're going to need a lawyer now in order to get custody for Tyler, which I thought was kind of strange. I was like, well, if this is uncontested and if The Duggars are waiving their consent. Why does it matter? Why do they need a lawyer? And why are they using Travis Story? Travis Story is the guy that defended Josh Duggar. Literally, he defended Josh Duggar's case. He was part of Josh's team at the trial. He asked questions of, I don't remember who. He wasn't used very much because Josh used Justin Gelfand for the most part, but Travis was his in-state attorney. They hire Travis. On the 5th of December, he files a notice of appearance, and the court hasn't responded to the petition of guardianship. So, for whatever reason, Tyler's guardians are still listed as Jim, Bob, and Michelle, but he hasn't lived with them in months. And I've been looking at the propaganda machine on the Duggar website and on the various kids, and I haven't seen Tyler in any videos. So I don't know what's going on, but they're still trying to get Tyler his freedom. His grandparents are. So hopefully the Duggars will just let him go and be free. I think the strangest part of this situation with Tyler is that when they did the waiver of consent in September, they basically said, we don't want to be a part of any hearings. We don't need to know what's happening. You don't need to tell us anything. Tyler can be had by his grandparents. And then a month later, Jim Bob is sending an annual report of guardianship and the estate and showing how much money he has and what his assets are and what his property is. And when I saw that, I was like, is Jim Bob doing this because of the reports and the suggestion that maybe he was using Tyler's money after everything that came out about Jill? Because if you remember, Jill in her book talked about how her dad was like charging her for everything growing up. She was like charging him. He was charging her for food and for clothing and for living at his house as a child. He sent her an itemized bill for all of that, and then he put it on her taxes. And when I saw the money missing, I was like, well, this is strange. There's a whole chunk of money missing. And then suddenly he files an annual report and it says, oh, he has a car. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Tyler's only 15. Why does he have a truck already? I know it's Arkansas. I get it. So it kind of felt like maybe after the fact this was done. And again, why is he filing an annual guardianship estate planning with the court a month after giving up rights via consent to the court? I truly hope that they are not fighting with his grandparents. I truly hope they're not making this more difficult. I hope that Tyler can have his freedom with his grandparents to get away from this cult. And I hope that Jim, Bob, and Michelle can't put any more damage into this child's life. I still think it's not at all coincidental that he left the Duggar household the same weekend that Shiny Happy People Duggar Family Secrets came out. I don't think it's any coincidence that Tyler was removed from the home after that came out, because how can the Duggars have guardianship of any child when they have been so detrimental to the children that they have? A lot of you had been asking for an update on Anna. I unfortunately do not have one. There hasn't been a whole lot to report. She has not been making a lot of appearances. And I really don't have a status update about what's going on with her and Josh. I wish I could give an update that says Anna's divorcing Josh, or the kids are free and safe, or more Duggar kids break free, but it unfortunately hasn't been like that for the last several months. And as Jill and Derek and Jinger continue to promote their work exposing the IBLP and speaking out against it, I feel that I'm not helping the cause if I continue to speak about the Duggar births and the Duggar weddings and what's happening in the family, unless it includes kids leaving, kids waking up, or some level of accountability for Jim Bob. I feel like promoting the birth and the weddings and the mundane crap that's happening only puts money in Jim Bob's pocket and keeps his kids further under his control. And I just don't want to be a part of that machine. I don't want to be a part of a machine that's hurting his children. I would much rather be speaking about those that have gotten out and what they're sharing about what happened in their home, and not overwhelming the media with stories that distract from that truth. Because every time one of the Duggars posts content, it's deliberately doing that to intentionally take focus off of Jill's book or Ginger's book. It's a game that Jim Bob has played for years. So if that's why you haven't seen as much content of the Duggars on this channel, that's why. Today, I simply wanted to bring up two topics. One, that Ginger and Jeremy did a video on Shiny Happy People, Duggar Family Secrets. I'm glad that Ginger has spoken out and supports this docuseries, even if she didn't like aspects of it. I think everyone that watched it could have had criticism in some angle for this series. And I don't disagree with her that the ending was a little bit underwhelming and made the situation feel like hopeless a bit. Like, not hopeless, but open-ended, I guess, is what I'm feeling. I felt open-ended. I felt like a wound had been ripped open and with not a lot of closure. And I think Ginger was hoping for a little bit more closure, but that's not the world of messiness of cults. And then obviously we will continue to share anything new that Jill and Derek share about the family, about their journey. And if I see any more of the kids breaking free, or if any legal happenings happen, like what's going on with Tyler, I will keep you guys posted. Tyler is still fighting for his freedom, and the Duggars, for whatever reason, are making this more difficult than it needs to be. So tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.